podcast of Slow Dance with a Hot Pickup, and you're watching In Focus.
Welcome to In Focus with Eden Lane.
A brand new musical is making its world premiere in Colorado at Boulder's Dinner Theater. This book by John Pielmeier, with music and lyrics by Matty Selman, introduces us to the contestants vying for a truck by keeping their hand on it the longest. Slow Dance with a Hot Pickup. And we start things off with the creators of this musical, John Pielmeier and Matty Selman. So we're here for a cleanup rehearsal for a brand new show at Boulder's Dinner Theater. And when I say brand new, I mean brand new. This is a world premiere of your new work. Tell me what the title is again.
It's called Slow Dance with a Hot Pickup.
Slow Dance with a Hot Pickup. Now, of course, when you just hear that, you think maybe it has something to do with the dance marathons of the...
Or you have no idea what it's
Right.
about.
So tell me, we can see over your shoulder there is a great pickup truck.
Well, around the mid-1980s, actually in the New England area, there started a phenomenon called hands-on contests, in which often radio stations and truck dealerships would join together and essentially offer a pickup truck as a prize, and contestants were chosen, and they had to stand around with their hand on a pickup truck for however long it took, and the last one standing with their hand on the truck won the truck.
And this is days and days long, these contests.
Yeah.
Yes, the longest one we mentioned in this show was 176 hours. It was, how do you stay awake for that long and let alone not really eat much at all?
And John actually went to a number of these and followed the actual contestants and got the real hands experience,
And I should say you wrote the book and you write the music and the lyrics, so that tells us it's a musical. So how do you have a musical where the principal characters are stuck with their hand on a truck?
Well, you would think, it's just a good question. But I found that one of the most fascinating things about these contests is that unlike the dance marathons, or unlike Survivor or Celebrity Apprentice or anything like that, people, when you're standing around with a hand on a truck, all you can do is talk to each other. And I actually found that these contests often resulted in the formation of a kind of family. That the edge of competition often would slip away, and people got to know each other and got to like each other. And so that often people would tell me when anybody dropped out, they would feel a sense of elation, but also a great sense of loss. You're close to these people and you know their stories. And so I thought, well, in a way, this is a perfect idea for a musical because it's all about character.
Yep.
There's it's not what you would call a plot-heavy musical, but it is about people revealing themselves to each other and to us as the audience.
Is there a challenge of not letting it be all exposition after exposition after?
Yes, because it's all exchange. It's a very funny show. Much of it you'll find is quite funny.
And it's a cross-section of America, really. We created this show in the heartland in Indiana and developed it sort of around the country, but mostly in the heartland. And
so you've done other workshops of
yes,
this
we've
before.
done a number of other workshops of this.
Yep.
And the idea is to be very site-specific. So this production takes place in Boulder, Colorado.
So subsequent productions will have their location
We had a
changed?
workshop of it
that.
in Bloomington, Indiana, and it took place in Bloomington, Indiana. So there are lots of local references. And
What's the musical style that you approach this show with?
Well, John came up with a palette of characters who were very fascinating. Mostly, I guess, blue collar, wouldn't you?
yeah, it's a very blue collar show.
And they're very, very varied in their backgrounds and who they are, and it just seemed to me that what was needed. And it sort of told me what it needed, and it was sort of a cross-section of American music, sort of American songbook. Different styles that we think of as American country music, soft rock from the 70s, a little jazz, something a little more...
doo-wop.
Doo-wop, yeah. I mean, it has a lot of different flavors in it. This musical is totally different than anything else I've ever done, anything else John and I have collaborated on a number of musicals together. And most of them are more, I'd say, book musicals. So they have a story and a main character and a love affair, and the ingredients of musical comedy to a degree. This broke all rules. I mean, there was no reference in my mind, and it was just feeling our way in the dark.
We're seeing that the traditional book musical, while it has initial success on Broadway lately, this past season we've seen several of them open to great flourish and not last. It's sort of that jukebox sort of musical that seems to be surviving. Is that sort of the flavor of this?
Not really. No. This is unlike any of that. I mean, it's certainly not. A lot of the jukebox musicals tend to be reviews, I find. This is certainly
or very
not a
loose
review.
narratives strung together.
Yeah, this is a very strong narrative structure. And
so we get to care about the characters.
You absolutely want to care about the people. Yeah. That's what it's all about. It's about falling in love with 8 people.
Do we stay with them long enough to find out who wins?
Oh yes. I mean, we start with hour 1 and end with the last hour of the contest, and you find out who wins.
Wow.
I mean, the arc of the piece is very simple.
I have to say, when I first read your description of this play, I thought, how on earth can they do this? But listening to you describe it now, it just makes so much sense.
Well, it's also, to me, to use that scary word political, it's a very subtle political statement in a way, because it, to me, reflects, even when we started writing it, but even more so today, reflects what's going on in America today. We did a workshop of this in a very wealthy community in Florida a number of years ago, and we had an audience talk back afterwards, and one woman raised her hand, she said, why would anyone do this for at that time was a $15,000 truck? Why would you do this?
No frame
and
of
I
reference.
want to say,
frame of reference.
wow, this woman clearly had no idea what was going on in this world.
No way to relate to someone whose income for the year might be $24,000.
Exactly. If that. I mean, one of our characters is unemployed and is looking for a job. Another character is holding down 2 jobs. And these are all people who are trying to make sense of their life.
These characters.
Yes, and trying to make ends meet.
How long have you been workshopping this piece?
We started writing it in 2001, May of 2001.
Wow.
And we've just been constantly working on it since then.
Yeah,
it's a lot, 10 years ago, it's a long process.
We began at a place called the New Harmony Project in Indiana, which is a writers' conference that John brought me into, and it's been very nurturing, and it's the kind of place where you can start a work as different as this.
So how did you choose Boulder's Dinner Theater for your first production?
Well, it was kind of a fortuitous thing that happened. I had been working with one of the New York producers on another project, and she introduced me to her partner, and we got to talking, and he said, what else do you have? And I showed him Slow Dance, and he just fell in love with it and introduced it to the director, Nancy Robillard, who you'll meet. And then when John and I came out to this place here, the Boulder's Dinner Theater, what struck me, probably as well as John, was the sense of family here, which seemed to be so sympathetic to the idea of the show. It's an extended family, and this is like an extended family.
And the New York producer is good friends with Michael Duran, who runs the Boulder Dinner Theater. And so he knew that Michael was looking for he wanted to do a new show here because they've never done that before.
A brand new
piece. And so he sent this to Michael, and Michael responded wonderfully to it, and here we are.
That's really exciting for us as a community to have this happen in a venue like Boulder's Dinner Theater. But dinner theaters have what I think sometimes is a somewhat undeserved reputation for the quality of the actors, the quality of the pieces. Was that a thought that crossed your mind before you decided to commit to this?
It wasn't I had no preconceived notions. I was thinking of, I wanted to meet the cast. I wanted to see who was out there, and there's this fabulous talent pool in Denver, which we mostly drew from.
And in Boulder.
And when we did the casting, we were like completely blown away.
And what is great, I mean, to me, what I love about the space is wonderful. It's a wonderful performing space. One of the actors in the show has worked on this, and several have worked on this space a lot, and it's a really warm, wonderful space for the actors to perform on. It's a very intimate space, as you can see.
Yes, I think that as we see this piece, not only through the character development, but just proximity, we'll feel as if we're part of this contest in some way.
And I always think of dinner theater, of clanking of dishes during the
That's
show,
right.
you know,
And this is
you just don't. You just don't hear that in this
Yeah.
in this show. Everybody is very quiet and paying attention.
This place has kind of like a legendary feeling to it. You know, you don't feel like you just feel like you're coming into some sort of a landmark kind of a theater and doing your work. And I just have to mention one other thing. We're very gifted to have.
We are gifted?
Gifted the benefit. We are gifted. It's a gift. It's been a gift for us to work with the music director Neil Dunphy, who is married.
Me?
No, I'm pointing back. Neil Dunphy, who was married to Allie Dunphy, who was playing Sheba in our play, but also is choreographing the work.
Oh.
So there's a lot of, he's our music director, and these are integral pieces to the production, and it's so nice working with them.
Their working relationship
They're
is
amazing.
as important as
Oh,
your
yeah.
working relationship.
And a number of the actors have worked together on other shows, so it's a very, very wonderful family feeling here.
How would you assess your experience here at Boulder's Dinner Theater
Well,
as
it's
you
been
leave?
fabulous.
Really wonderful.
It's been so supportive, and it's always fun to kind of get together with a bunch of other creative people, and because creativity sparks creativity, and you get new ideas, and that's just terrific.
I appreciate you taking some time during this rehearsal to share a little bit about this project with us today. Thank you
and
so much.
thank you for coming and talk to us, and
Yeah, it's
please
great.
come see us and encourage other people to come see us.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, the director of Slow Dance with a Hot Pickup, Nancy Robillard. This is really wonderful to be able to come into a rehearsal and actually be in here during the rehearsal. Thank you for letting us
Oh,
come
you're
in.
welcome. You're welcome.
The creators were telling me how they came up with this idea. What did you think when you first heard about this script when you were in?
Well, one of our New York producers, John Benani, gave me the script, and he had a bunch of projects that he was thinking about producing, and he handed me this one, and I fell in love with it at first sight. And I was familiar with John Pielmeier's work, so
Yes.
I knew the story would be well told.
You said you fell in love with it on that first reading. Is that normal, that the first reading you...
No, I think this is a very special play and script and score that comes along only once in a while. And I've had a few shows in my life that have come my way because I have done a lot of new plays and I'm constantly meeting playwrights and reading new work. Every once in a while there's something that just grabs me and I say, I have to do this. I have to do this. And so I feel really fortunate to have the opportunity to direct this show.
What is the biggest surprise about working in this environment, in this town, to create this kind of work at a dinner theater?
Well, the dinner theater aspect is a little bit different. I have to sort of rethink the way I schedule my day because after rehearsal, the actors need to have time to sort of get a rest, get a bite to eat, think about what we did in rehearsal, and then put on different clothes and serve wait on tables. So that's a little bit different, but they're all used to it.
And you cast this with all Colorado
Yes.
actors.
Yes, we came out here in May and had auditions, and casting is so important. I mean, everybody says casting is 90% of directing. It's probably 95, because if I make a casting mistake, there's no amount of rehearsal that can fix it. So we spent a few days here in May and had auditions and found our cast and got on the plane just a little bit giddy and delirious because the cast is really beyond what our wildest dreams were. I mean,
What was it
everybody's
you
just
were
great.
looking for?
We were looking for 9 individuals who were, first of all, they have to be really, really smart actors. They have to be able to sing. There's some dance, so they have to be able to dance.
I know you think it's a contest with your hand on a truck. How's there going to be dancing? But there
Well,
obviously
there are
is.
moments where they fantasize, because if you're standing there for 108 hours or whatever, you would start to fantasize. You would start to go into your own world, partly just to pass the time, and also because there's a sleep deprivation aspect of it too. So in those fantasy moments, they sing and sometimes dance.
So this is your first project in Colorado.
That's right.
And your first dinner theater.
Yes. And the first time directing the world premiere of a musical. I have directed world premieres before of new plays, but first time doing a musical.
Now that you've actually had several performances already, how does that feel, those 3 firsts for you?
It's fantastic. It's a dream come true. Really, truly is. It's a dream come true.
Well, I really appreciate you letting us come into your rehearsal, literally
welcome.
come into
You're
your
welcome.
rehearsal and learn more about slow dance with a hot pickup. Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming.
And finally, we meet the cast of this world premiere at Boulder's Dinner Theater. Well, this is your second week of performances for this brand new world premiere work at Boulder's Dinner Theater, and you're staying late just to talk to us. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
So we've already established earlier when we spoke to the creators that this is a play about a contest, a kind of a contest that was all the rage at one time for radio stations, to win a vehicle or some other item of value by keeping your hand on it the longest. And it's a musical. Did that strike any of you as odd? How would you do a musical where the cast is stuck touching a vehicle the whole time?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think to pitch us a little bit, we were selected as one of the 10 top plays to watch by the Denver Pulse and John Moore. Speaks up. And I had an opportunity to interview for that, or at least do a little interview, and that was one of the questions that John asked me, is like, well, a musical about somebody having their hand on a truck, a musical? And it's like, yeah, a musical. I have a slight idea of how it's going to work, but it's a musical, so I'm sure it'll work.
But it does work.
And it does work.
We get to know each of you, and this is a fairly large ensemble where we're going to know every single character. How does that feel to you as an actor to approach this piece?
I think the most challenging thing about taking on these characters is that because you're learning about all 9 of us, there are a lot of holes. Like for yourself and personally, you have to kind of fill in the blanks between this line and then 3 pages later you're saying your next line and what's happened in those 3 pages, and then 2 pages after that you have a whole monologue, which is great, and then you have a song, and then you're kind of out for a while. So it's kind of, and that's how it is for all of us. We're all in and out and intermingled in each other's scenes. So it's challenging and fun to kind of create your own world and then how our worlds interact with each other.
And then there's that manipulation of time that's happening.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because those 3 pages may be 15 hours. Sometimes, like in our conversation with each other on opposite sides of the truck, that's a span of time where she says something to me and an hour goes by before we respond. And I know for myself, and we worked on this a lot in the rehearsals, and they were like, okay guys, this is this stretch of time, and you have to find that in your body, and then what your own character's arc is as far as understanding how the time wears on you,
And
how
the
relationships
people.
begin to wear or support you. So those were fun discoveries.
So while it might sound like a fun, easy piece, there's definitely something for an actor to grab onto here.
The truck. I mean, it literally, we didn't have
right
to
into
act. We didn't have to act for a while. I mean, it's
not
physically
easy.
taxing.
It's not easy.
For even the relatively
Physically.
short period of time that you're.
Yeah,
Well, there's no way. I'm sorry. I mean, after our first rehearsal that we came in and we actually had the real truck, and after about 4 hours, I was like, "Are you kidding? I'd be gone by now already.
please.
No way.
And
No
would
way
do
could you
this?
stand there
Any of
for
you
5
would enter
days.
this contest?
no.
Especially after this.
Yeah.
Not unless you can break out in a musical number.
That's allowed.
Yeah.
And your character has the additional challenge of not being able to even physically interact with the rest of the cast.
I did request that I be in a position that I can actually make eye contact with them, though. And I don't know if it helps them necessarily, but
Yep.
Yeah.
it certainly
It helps a
helps
lot.
me to play those beats with them, so we can.
So you're watching
off each
along
other.
Yep.
just like your character would be.
Yeah. I sit in the booth. I have direct eye contact with them, and I started working with the microphone early on in rehearsals, because the use of the mic really changes a lot of how my emotion.
And the fact that you're doing it live rather than a canned performance helps you, the cast, keep that energy. Don't you think?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think so. Sure.
Yeah.
He's a real catalyst.
In what way?
For where he sends us, like so many of us get into arguments with him, so it's an opportunity for the characters'
think all
stories
of
to
you
come
did.
through. Yeah,
Well,
because,
and
yeah.
the director really pushed that with me, that this was a contest that I maybe came up with, and it's my baby, but I also don't want it to go on for days and days and days, and so she was like, you know, it's game on at this point, and you got to start going after them and kind of pitting them against each other.
So
and
is he
against
really a jerk, or
themselves, and-
is he just?
I would like to think that he's not really a jerk.
I think many of us would
withdrawn.
disagree.
You're here.
But he's, and I tell my patrons that I wait on every night. I'm like, yeah, but if I wasn't so mean, we'd be here for 5
We'd
days.
still be here, that's right.
So there's
One of the other things that helps drive this, of course, is the music. It's a musical. So tell me about what that's like to adapt this music and conduct it in this way where they're so locked in. What is that like?
It's really interesting because it does. I mean, I'm not the first one to use this phrase. It's more of like a play with music than it is a musical.
Yeah.
And
Do you think that's a trend now in new work? That
quite possibly, it's
lot of
really
ways, yeah.
fresh. It really feels. I love it. You know, the kind of the reality of that. And it was really interesting because it was certainly like the music and the arrangements were so fresh that I had a printer and my laptop in here, and the guy in New York was doing the arrangements. We would send him an email and say, could you lower that key, or could you do this, or this doesn't work, and I would be printing out the music, you know, and getting it ready for the band.
that also underlines the fact that this is a world premiere.
Yeah, seriously.
This has been in workshop for some time, as the creators have told us, but you are establishing what's locked down as the benchmark for this production, and in the same way with the orchestration.
Yeah, and for, I think, cast and the orchestra as well. Generally, we have a model to work from, some Broadway recording or something that we can at least start to base our show on, and there was very little, you know, to base it on.
Lessons
we had to
learned
create
from
it.
so many workshops, but still, you're really creating.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah, it was awesome.
Well, and yeah, there was no recording of Life's Like a Three-Legged Dog. There was no recording of that.
Right.
But I think that's going to be the single from this.
You know, but it's really cool because you do get to really, it's your own. You get to really make it all
That
your
doesn't
own.
happen for actors who don't live in New York or
Yep.
other major theatrical communities very often, and to have it happen not just here in Colorado, but at a dinner theater.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Way cool.
yeah.
Way
Very-
cool.
yeah.
What does that feel like?
Oh, it's great.
It's
Excellent.
exciting.
Yeah, it's really
And,
fun.
and I think we were really blessed because John Pielmeier and Matty Selman were so generous with us. You know, these guys have incredible reputations, and they came in with no ego, no attachment. They gave it to us and sat and worked with us and listened to us and asked our opinions, and were just so gracious. And their talents are, you know, mad, and so
And they're nice guys, too.
Oh,
They are
nice.
nice guys.
Incredibly nice people. So that, you couldn't have asked for a better situation.
There's another critical component to any theatrical production, especially a musical, and that's the stage manager. But yet in this musical, Mr. Stage Manager, your cast is locked down for most of this show to this rather large set piece. What is it like to stage manage this show?
This show was, it was very fun to be able to actually just watch everybody grow, like from the first rehearsal through everything. And there's certain things of like how people are adjusting, like standing around the truck and everything, and what works and how, like, when they're moving, stuff of that sort. The hardest thing is that when you're concentrating so hard for them sitting on the truck or keeping a hand on the truck, the sequence of everything, because it's just line after line after line after line after line, it's very difficult to keep that track, because there's certain times where, you know, somebody might say a line just a little bit different, and then that throws somebody else off, and then we skip over a certain amount of hours where we've been. So it's a matter of just making sure of trying to keep everything together, and then just, if something happens with that during rehearsal, going back and just being, okay, how do we adjust this so that it gets to be, so we can keep it in sequence and keep everything flowing very nicely.
Was there an additional challenge about making sure they were honest about never actually breaking contact with
Oh, it's something that you gotta look at, and it's hard for me at this point. During the rehearsals, it was a lot easier because I was out here, but we don't have much room in our booth, so I'm looking on a screen about this big to see if. And there's a couple of times it'll be like, so and so, didn't have their hand on here, or then they didn't do something here. And
So it's one of the things we can look for as an audience. To someone.
and that's something that really, like, Nancy was very particular about that during rehearsal. She's like, if you do this, you're going to see there's people who are going to be looking for this. People are going to be looking that when you switched hands, you had one hand off for a few seconds. You're going to be out, so be very, very cognizant.
It sounds very limiting. Everybody has to keep their hands on a truck, but there was really breath and movement and space used up in this entire production.
Well, and it makes the numbers so much more powerful with the whole thing, because it's the only time that they have their hands off the truck. It's the only time that they get to move around on stage, so that even makes the music even that much more important.
Was that a hard thing to adjust to as an actor?
No.
It was nice.
It's like,
It was a relief.
musical number coming up. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
Feel a song coming on.
Yeah.
How large is the orchestra for this show?
Was it piano, bass, drums, synth, guitar? I have to say something else about the band is that every single one of it's such an incredible band. Every single one of them are leaders. Like I'm leading a group of leaders, and 3 of them have their own musicals. You know, like it's just such a pleasure.
Great band.
Yeah, they are.
We're
Really
very
absolutely.
fortunate.
Everybody really cares about
And a
what's
wide
going
variety
on.
of music they have to be able to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the coolest things about this piece, I think, is just the variety that came out of Matty in
Yeah.
these songs that are so specific to the characters.
Well, you're here for 6 weeks, and this is already the end of your 2nd week. Is that true?
Yep.
Correct.
So you only have 4 weeks left to try, well, less than 4 weeks now, to try and get your chance to see the world premiere of Slow Dance with a Hot Pickup at Boulder's Dinner Theater. Just log onto their webpage and get your tickets right away. Thank you.
Thank you. You're amazing. Really?
That's all for this edition. Remember to join us on Facebook and Twitter. With all that Colorado has to offer, we're here to help you keep it in focus. Thanks for watching. Good night.